Imagine coming home after a long day, looking for some rest. But something in this house has changed. With hidden footsteps and distant whispers, you feel like you're not alone. What will you do when you discover that the night has no end? Ali had lived in his small house for years, never once suspecting that anything out of the ordinary could happen. But tonight was different. He returned home late, the sky heavy with dark clouds, and the sound of rain echoed all around. He opened the front door and entered. But as soon as he stepped inside, he felt something strange. The house seemed quieter than usual, quieter in an unsettling way. The air was unnaturally cold, as if the windows had been wide open, but he clearly remembered closing everything. The sounds began just minutes later, the faint sound of footsteps creeping from the upper floor. Ali wasn't sure if the footsteps were real or if they were just his imagination, tired after a long day. But the sound persisted, footsteps slowly approaching. "Who's there?" Ali called out in a trembling voice, but no response came. His fear grew, and he grabbed his phone and cautiously climbed the stairs. Each step seemed to intensify his heartbeat. He reached the upper floor and found the storage room door slightly open. He was certain he had closed it that morning before leaving. He hesitated for a moment before swinging the door fully open. Inside, the room was empty, but a strange feeling crept into his chest, as if he was being watched from somewhere. Then suddenly, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room entirely, and Ali found himself standing in the middle of a cold room, alone. Or maybe not. He heard a faint whisper echoing around him, a whisper unfamiliar to him, yet it sounded as though it was calling his name. "Ali! Ali!" He quickly turned toward the source of the voice, but he saw nothing, only shadows moving in the corners. He rushed toward the door to escape, but froze suddenly when he saw something strange. On the mirror across the room, there was writing in slanted handwriting, words he didn't recognize, but they seemed like a warning. "Time is running out." Ali couldn't understand the meaning, but he felt danger closing in on him. He tried to run, but the more he moved down the hallway, the longer the distance seemed to grow. The faster he ran, the further away the exit appeared. It was as if the house itself was consuming him. In a moment of terror, he heard the front door slam shut downstairs. Heavy footsteps rushed toward him, and everything became faster. The shadows moved, the whispers screamed his name, as if they were hunting him. Ali ran toward the exit, desperate to escape the nightmare. He finally reached the door and flung it open, but when he stepped outside, he found himself in the same house. It was as if the night had repeated itself, as if time was stuck in an endless loop. The darkness consumed everything, and Ali no longer knew whether what was happening was real or just a hallucination. The sounds didn't stop, and the whispers persisted, chasing him relentlessly. Every time he tried to escape, he found himself in the same place, back at the same beginning. "Where am I?" Ali screamed, but no one was there to answer him, only the shadows that kept pursuing him, and the endless night. Ali opened the door again, thinking he had finally escaped the nightmare that had trapped him inside his house. But as he stepped outside, he felt something strange. The same coldness, the same strange smell, and the same darkness that consumed him every time. He looked around, but all he found were the same hallways he had been running from since the beginning. "No, this can't be real," Ali whispered to himself, feeling despair seep into his heart. He glanced at the phone in his hand, but noticed that the screen was no longer working. It was as if technology itself had surrendered to this madness. At that moment, he heard a faint laugh behind him. It was a strange laugh, as if it came from the depths of the darkness. Ali quickly turned around, not expecting what he saw. A woman, pale-faced, standing at the end of the hallway, smiling with a cold grin. She was the same woman he had seen on the first night, but now she appeared clearer, more real. "Why are you trying to escape?" the woman said in a calm voice, but her eyes were filled with malice. "We've come for you. This isn't just a game. It's your life now." Ali began to back away slowly, but with each step he felt the ground beneath him tremble. The house was no longer just a building, it was transforming before his eyes. The walls were shifting, the floor opening as if to swallow him, and the sounds were overlapping. Screams, whispers, maniacal laughter, all filled the space as if coming from every corner. "What do you want from me?" Ali screamed in madness, but no answer came. Only the shadows moved closer, slowly. Then suddenly, he found himself upstairs again, standing before the storage room door. It was closed, but Ali didn't want to open it. He tried to step back, but felt a cold hand grip his wrist. He slowly turned to see the woman again, this time much closer than before. "You won't leave here until we get what we want," she whispered in his ear, then vanished like smoke. The room around him began to shrink. The walls seemed to be closing in on him, trapping him. The air grew heavier, as if it was draining every ounce of energy from him. Ali didn't know what to do. Every time he tried to escape, he found himself back in the same place. It was as if the house controlled his every move, refusing to let him go. But then, at that moment, he noticed something strange. On the floor, beneath his bed, there was an old box he had never seen before. Ali trembled as he approached it, knowing he had no other choice. He slowly opened the box and found inside a set of old papers and some photos. The photos showed Ali himself, but in situations he didn't remember. In one of them, he was standing in the same room he was in now, and in the background of the picture, that woman stood behind him, smiling. "Who are you?" Ali muttered in a shaky voice, but silence was the only response. Time passed, or maybe it didn't. In this house, time no longer had meaning. Everything kept repeating, but each time it got worse. The mystery deepened, and fear controlled every movement. In the end, Ali sat on the floor, exhausted, his mind foggy, as if he had become part of the house itself. Was this the end? Or was there something else waiting for him? Ali sat on the floor, feeling as if the house was closing in around him. The box he found was open, revealing strange photos and writings. One photo showed a man who looked just like him, standing in the same house but from another time. A shadowy figure appeared in the room, pale and silent. Ali, desperate for answers, flipped through the papers and found a letter. "I tried to escape, too, but there's no way out. You're part of this now, just like the rest of us." Suddenly he heard a faint cry, a child sobbing coming from the basement. Unsure if it was real, Ali followed the sound. Downstairs, he found an old doll in a room that had always been locked. The crying stopped. When Ali touched the doll, the air around him shifted. Shadows filled the room, watching him from every corner. Ali is now surrounded by shadows, caught between reality and nightmare. What do these shadows want? Find out in the next chapter of this terrifying story. Like and subscribe to stay updated.